All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to dive right into the essentials of keeping your digital world safe and sound. Think of it like this. We're going to build a digital fortress, piece by piece, and I'll show you exactly how.
So let's kick things off with a big question, one that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about. Is your security just a single lock on the door, something that can be easily picked? Or is it a full-blown fortress with high walls, moats, and guards? That's the mindset we need, and that's the core idea we're going to unpack today. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to build this fortress in three main parts. First up, guarding the perimeter. That's our outer walls, the first line of defense. Then, we'll get into maintaining system health, which is all about making sure those walls stay strong and don't crumble. And last, but definitely not least, we'll tackle controlling user access, basically deciding who gets the keys to the kingdom and where they're allowed to go. All right, let's jump right in with that first super critical barrier, guarding the perimeter. This is your absolute first line of defense. It's the collection of tools and rules that stands between your safe, private network and, well, the wild west of the open internet.
Now, before you can guard anything, you've got to know what you're guarding against, right? What's trying to get in and out? And the answer is network traffic. Think about it. Every single email, every file you upload, every video call you're on, all of that is just data zooming across the network. And every single bit of it needs to be watched.
And that brings us to the main gatekeeper of our fortress, the firewall. So what is it? It's a security device that sits right on that edge, acting as the barrier between your trusted internal network and the untrusted outside world. Its whole job is to look at all that traffic we just talked about and decide what's allowed in and what's allowed out, all based on a set of rules you defined.
But here's what's really cool. A modern firewall isn't just a simple on-off switch. It's way smarter than that. It does something called packet filtering, where it actually looks at the little pieces of data flying by. It can be an application proxy, which helps shield you from nasty stuff. It can even prevent data loss by stopping sensitive files from leaving your network. And, this is a big one, it logs everything. It records user activity, giving you a detailed record of who's doing what.
Okay, but it's really important to understand that firewalls aren't a magic fix-all. They have some major advantages, for sure. They monitor your traffic, which give you great visibility, and they let you control access, which is fundamental. But they have downsides too. For one, they can be really complex. You need an expert to set them up right, or they're not much good. And a huge one, they do almost nothing to stop insider attacks. If the threat is already inside your walls, say from a malicious employee or even just malware on a USB stick, the firewall can't see it.
So our perimeter is up, the gate is guarded. Now what? Well, now we have to look inside the fortress. This next section is all about maintaining system health. Think of it as reinforcing the walls, patching up any cracks, and making sure there are no weak spots for an attacker to sneak through. This is all about proactive, day-to-day work.
And a huge part of that maintenance is applying security updates. The best way to think about these is like general renovations for your software. The developers release them all the time. Sometimes they fix little bugs, sometimes they add cool new features, and they almost always include tweaks to keep things running smoothly and securely.
Now, that's a little different from patching. A patch is way more specific. If an update is a general renovation, a patch is like an emergency repair crew. They're rushing in to fix one very specific, very dangerous crack in the wall that's just been discovered. It's a laser-focused, urgent fix for a known security problem.
So you see the difference, right? Updates are for broad improvements and keeping things fresh. Patches are for plugging specific, urgent security holes. And you absolutely positively need both. You need the long-term renovations, and you need the emergency repair crew on speed dial. And if you're wondering if this stuff really matters, believe me, it does. The cost of not patching can be absolutely staggering. Just look at the WannaCry ransomware attack. It spread like a global wildfire, hitting more than 200,000 computers. And the crazy part? Microsoft had already released the patch to fix the vulnerability. The whole disaster happened because people just hadn't applied it yet. So how do you stay ahead of the game? You can't just wait for attackers to show you where your weaknesses are. You have to find them first. And that's where vulnerability testing comes in. It's basically the process of actively looking for those cracks in your fortress walls. You run scans to identify all your systems and find potential weak spots before the bad guys do. But we can take that a whole step further with something called penetration testing, or a pen test for short. Now this is different. This isn't just looking for cracks in the wall. This is hiring a team to actually try and break through them.
They use the same tricks and tools that real hackers would, all to see if your defenses can actually stand up to a real attack.
And this difference is so important. A vulnerability test gives you a list of potential problems. It's defensive. A pen test is an offensive drill. It tells you which of those problems are actually exploitable and could lead to a real disaster. So one is about finding the cracks, the other is about trying to smash through them.
Okay, but all this testing and patching, it's pretty much worthless if you don't have good records. You have to know exactly what hardware and software you're running on every single machine. Why? It's simple. You can't protect what you don't know you have. Keeping those records accurate and up to date is the only way your IT team can be sure they're getting the right patches to the right systems and fast.
And again, if you need a real-world example of what happens when this goes wrong, just think of the Equifax breach back in 2017. 147 million people had their data stolen. And the cause? They failed to patch a known vulnerability. A fix was out there, they just didn't apply it. It was completely 100% preventable.
Okay, so our walls are strong, they're patched up, they're maintained. Now we get to what might be the most important part of all, controlling user access. This is our final section, and it's all about who you trust inside the fortress, who gets the keys, and which doors are they allowed to open.
That, my friends, is user access control. And it's all built on this one beautiful, simple idea called the principle of least privilege. All it means is that you only give people access to the exact things they need to do their job, and absolutely nothing else. It's so powerful because if one person's account ever gets hacked, the damage is contained. The hacker can't just wander around the whole castle.
So how do we actually do this? Well, there are a few standard ways. First, you need a strong password policy. That's just common sense. Then, you limit user privileges. That's the least privilege idea in action. Next, you add two-factor authentication, which is a fantastic way to double-check that someone is who they say they are. It's also critical to keep the number of all-powerful admin accounts to an absolute minimum, because those are a huge target for attackers. And finally, you have to monitor the logs to see what people are actually doing.
All right, theory is great, but let's make this real. Let's run a little thought experiment. Imagine you're the head of IT security for a company. You've got 40 employees, 4 managers, and 1 CEO. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to build their access control system from the ground up. How would you do it?
Well, you'd probably take it in 3 steps. Step 1, you give everyone a unique username and a strong password. That's their digital ID. Step 2, you decide what type of account they get. The vast majority of people will be standard users, but your IT folks, they'll need administrator accounts, the ones with the power to make big changes. And finally, step 3, you get really specific with file permissions, using a system like NTFS in Windows to control exactly who can touch what file.
And this table here is a perfect example of what that looks like in the real world. This is least privilege in action. You can see regular employees can work in their own department's folder, but they can only read the public stuff. Managers get a bit more power in their department. The CEO, well, they have access to executive files. But look closely, the only people with full control over the really critical system files, that's IT security. It's a clear, simple structure that makes sure nobody has more access than they absolutely need.
And that brings us to the most important takeaway of all. Cybersecurity isn't a project with a finish line. It's not something you set up once and forget about. It's a constant, never-ending process. It's vigilance. Building the fortress is just step 1. The real job is maintaining the walls, managing the keys, and always being on watch. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The question isn't just how strong is your fortress? The real question is, who's on watch tonight?